Hello, folks, and welcome to another FoFCast episode. We are back covering House of the Dragon. Season 3, Episode 8 has aired in the last 24 hours from recording this. It's done. We have finished Season 3, and it's been a big one, I guess. A lot of things happened, kind of, but also a lot of things didn't happen. I guess there's quite a few things to talk about. At the same time, they're all kind of like, there's like three main storylines basically in this episode, so in a way, maybe a bit less to talk about this, but we'll see. We tend to find a way usually to ramble on, no matter how few or how much material there is to talk about. So, yeah, as usual, for every single episode so far that we have done, it's me, and it is my good old friend, Shiv. Good evening, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Happy to be here for the season finale of House of the Dragons Season 3.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, just do like one or two sentences, like 1 to 2 sentences. What did you think of the episode? And then we'll go to one of the storylines.
I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to do 1 to 2 sentences about the episode, and then 1 to 2 sentences about the season as a whole as a teaser for later conversations.
All right, let's go.
I would say this episode, 1 sentence, a lot of action and setting up a proper cliffhanger. So that's my episode. And then for the season, my dangerous take here is I felt like we got half of a season. That's kind of my takeaway. Now, how would you react to those 2 sentences?
All right. Firstly, I like how you kind of position me to make a dark joke right away. You said that this episode set up a proper cliffhanger. That's all I'm gonna say. I will not say anything else. I'm really sorry. This is where I went, and it's. Thank you for the assist, I guess. I won't say anything else. Yeah, that's my reaction to the comment about the episode. About the season, I get the feeling. I know I get the feeling. I think we'll talk about it at the end. That's going to be the thing that pops us back to 1 hour somehow.
Yeah,
because there's stuff to discuss. Let's go to one of the plot lines, because I feel that we might end up just diving right into the rambling. So let's actually focus back on the plot, and then we'll get to that later. So let's go to Harrenhal first. This was the least. This subplot had the least screen time. Basically, Aegon arrives at Harrenhal with Sunfire. He confronts Daemon. Again, Aemond, who admits that he did attack him and sincerely kind of has like a proper, honest moment where he asks for forgiveness. And while Aegon is still furious, he is not stupid. He knows that he needs Aemond and Vhagar to retake King's Landing and to fight his war. So he kind of teases a bit of a forgiveness for Aemond if he helps him reclaim the Iron Throne. We still don't know where Vhagar is. But what we do find out, or at least I don't know if it's this is why it would be really cool if we had Robert for this episode as well, because Alice tells us that she is 100 years old, that she has been basically cursed to live for a very long time and kind of watch the whole, not the kingdom, but like the realm that her family used to rule fall into disrepair more and more, and to like keep being like, the servant, keep being someone who has their agency kind of taken away from them in some ways, even though she obviously does her very best to keep using her agency, to keep reclaiming her agency. But anyway, that's a pretty big deal that we learn off. So yeah, we have this, and then the other side is Aegon coming back and confronting Aemond, and they kind of seem to be now on the same side. Like Aemond seems to have accepted that he now needs to be at Aegon's side. So what were your thoughts of these two things? Whichever one you prefer first.
Yeah, so it's really interesting bringing up this storyline first, because I believe we had some theories of where Aegon was going in our previous conversation when we had Robert from In Deep Geek on. I feel like we came to the conclusion that he was heading towards Harrenhal. At least that was some of our theories. So it was cool to see. Yeah, it was cool to see that kind of come true. I think we were kind of I don't know if it was me or who, but we were leaning towards a confrontation that might have been more dramatic and potentially deadly. I was wondering if we were going to kind of see the brothers actually duke it out and have only one victorious. But in Game of Thrones fashion, and like you mentioned earlier, two dragons are stronger than one, so he needs his brother right now. And maybe there'll be some festering thoughts and feelings going for the next season that could lead to another potential argument. But yeah, it was interesting to see that he actually ended up there, but it was surprising that Aemond kind of, what's the word? He kind of like he surrendered, I guess. He basically surrendered to his brother, which I thought was an interesting character choice. And then moving on to Alice, this is where I would love to have Robert on too, unless you have some insight here. Is she like similar to the Red Witch? Like, is she kind of in the same wheelhouse, or are they just completely different characters? Or
yeah, I think from the stuff on the internet, I have not, as I've said almost every episode I think of this, I have not read the books that cover this part of the history of Westeros. But I definitely know I can definitely say this, that they do not share. So the Red Witch, Melisandre, and Alice, their powers, whatever they may be, they do not come from the same source. Or at least, if you assume that there are different power sources, as the characters in the story seem to think, and it's pretty clear that there are like a couple different ways to get power. So she says in this, during that reveal moment, that this woman treated or negotiated or bargained with na, and also some creatures in the forest. And you have these people who are called children of the forest, who are they're not, but they're kind of like elves, like very, very natural, nature oriented elves, kind of like that's just kind of the general vibe. But they're like Martin's own unique thing. So it seems like her power, though this also seems to be a curse, so she might have been dabbled in like different sources of things, but that would be different than what Melisandre has, because she is a red priestess. She's the priestess of the red god, or the god of light, R'hllor, or something like this. It's a very far focused word. So he's like the god of light and fire, I guess. So her being immortal with her, that necklace she had and so on, and then turning out to be actually like, I don't know, 200 years old or something like that. Yeah, it's two different power sources.
Gosh.
But yeah, I'm not completely sure what's the actual thing in the books. But it would not be the red god, that's for sure. It's something with nature, some other kind of magic, but not completely sure what.
Gotcha. And then the other, I guess, twist of that episode, dare I say, is Aemond and Alice seem to be roughly the same age, and then we find out she's 100 years old. And it's like, oh, that makes sense because he has mommy issues. So now it really makes sense.
Yeah, that absolutely tracks so far. So yeah, the vibes are right there. And lest we forget, she did all of that because she wanted to save her son. So she also has issues from that side of things. Not to judge. I mean, everything we're commenting here is terrible. So we are purely commenting on things that are terrible as they are, not taking away from anything in real life. Like, it's just, exactly. It's Westeros. It's everything is bad. It's hard to think of people who have good lives here. There are not many stories about those. But yeah, anyway. But what did you? That was a pretty big reveal. That's one of the things that was absolutely not spoiled to me. And I think this is more. I think it's kind of ambiguous, and I think that the show kind of took something that's kind of hinted at, or could be read as such or something in the books, and then just kind of like made it into a much bigger thing. So yeah, this would have been a great thing to have Robert on for this. So yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe we can do a stream in a week or two, or something else, and then we can ask him about Alice. Or actually, just watch his video. I don't know if it's already out, the video for this episode. I'm sure he's going to talk about this, and then we can find it out there, or we can just ask him next time. Anyway, Aegon and Aemond, I mean, I guess you kind of commented already. It was a funny scene. I mean, I love the guy who plays King Biff, the first of his name, he does a great job. And even it's really nice that we had, again, even though tragic and horrible and terrible storyline also on its own, it was still, this storyline was still the source of most of the humor in this season. So it was nice to get, even in this episode, a couple of like seconds of levity, basically, like him being angry at Eamon, and like the way he's, I don't know, it's just there's just a lot of charisma, a lot of charm. It's the same word, but I feel like charm slightly says it slightly better, slightly more precise. There's just a lot of charm in the way he plays him, especially in that whole scene when he's like just silently like slipping off the dragon, just like limping over to Eamon and then smacking him and then yelling insults at him, and like, and again, I'm praising a man for being terrible to his brother, but also that brother was terrible to him. It's like, it's just Game of Thrones. It just makes you cheer for good things. It makes you cheer for bad things as if they are good things, is what I wanted to say. Yeah. Anyway, it's just, I just enjoyed that whole scene. It was a great interaction. The actors do a great job with the 3 minutes that they have for that. Yeah, good stuff.
And that Biff Riz got me almost rooting for him. I almost want Aegon to take over. We see we're gonna transition eventually to the Rhaenyra storyline and all that, and where she's at.
I mean,
but
we can right away. You can just lead us right into it, actually, because
okay, yeah, like with Aegon, we're kind of seeing a. Well, I guess I'm anticipating a character arc, and in Game of Thrones fashion, it could get thrown right out the window. But I'm hoping that conversation he had with Larys, and I'm hoping he learns something from that, and maybe gets just a little bit better. Like, yeah, he's probably still going to be a terrible human, but maybe there's some redeeming qualities that enter into there. Maybe not. Now, where this is headcanon basically at this point, but so we have Aegon kind of hopefully steering towards maybe getting slightly better, being less of a terrible human. I feel like Rhaenyra's on the other path, where she started great and she is slowly getting corrupted, and the power and the decisions are making her worse and worse and worse, to the point where her latest acts are pretty chaotic and insane. Like I don't want to jump over too much stuff, so maybe I'll give it back to you. But there's a couple the scenes.
I can sum up a little bit here. So yeah, she early on in the episode, she learns that Aegon and Soundfire are alive, and obviously that's a bad thing for her, especially because of the whole story of, oh my god, he has been resurrected. Like it's just very easy to see how this can swing the whole thing against her, as if gods are against her. And
speaking of that, actually, with resurrections, and I'm not a huge history buff, but when that scene occurred, I'm like, wow, I wonder if that happened in real life. Like, is there any stories in human records, let's say, where someone was thought to be dead, and due to just the horrible the lack of technology back then, communication had to have been horrible. Like, people probably assumed people were dead when they were actually alive the whole time, and they were just missing. So I'm wondering if there's any famous cases in history of that occurring, because I thought it was a brilliant writing done by George R.R. Martin of like, oh yeah, this person, everyone assumes him to be dead because saw a dragon get thrown down from the sky. We're seeing the corpse and all that, and then lo and behold, he was just kind of like a prisoner of war for a while. So I don't know. It's just an interesting thought I had.
No, for sure. I'm sure something like this has happened at some point. Yeah, for sure. I cannot. There's one example, but it's extremely convoluted. It would take way too much to go through it, because it's not that famous. And also maybe it's not accurate, because it's one of those things where historical documents do not agree on whatever. But I'm sure. Yeah, I think it must have happened at some point. So I would be curious to look into that. But either way, it's very clear to Rhaenyra this can be really bad for her. So she's like, okay, Daemon, you go conquer Tumbleton. I'm going to get rid of Missaria, because I think maybe this is also like a moment where she kind of fully, obviously, is discarding Missaria, and it's probably because one of the big points, one of the reasons why she does this is because Missaria has been anti-Daemon a lot. But also, I feel like this is in a way the moment where she kind of really starts losing the connection to the people. Like, this is the moment where she severs the connection to the people, and I guess we'll get to that in a second. But dismissing Missaria is basically a symbolic version of this, I think. And then she decides, okay, I'm going to get crowned, I'm going to get anointed by the High Septon, and that's it. And if he refuses, we'll deal with that. So she orders, basically, there's a procession. She's going to the Sept of Baelor, and she enters there. She marches in with soldiers. Sir Ellen is there, and yeah, High Septon refuses to anoint her. They're calling for Aegon. He calls her princess directly, thus directly confirming that for him she is not the queen, and Sir Ellen is ordered to execute him. After that, she leaves to she gets out in front of the church and starts going on this speech where she is, I am like there was a prophecy, I have been foretold, this is my sacred duty, I have been prophesied even before I have been anointed generations ago, there's going to be this prophecy, there's going to be darkness, this ancient terrible thing in the north, and people are just like, what the hell, because obviously nobody heard of this. And the ironic thing, and this is something that Martin just does, I don't know, I would assume, it just feels like this isn't from the books, this speech, but maybe it is, who knows. But either way, this does feel like one of the great pieces of irony that Martin is extremely, like, terribly good at. Because she is actually right. There is a darkness in the north, and a Targaryen will play a big role in the whole thing. Targaryens and dragons will play a big role in it. Like, there's actually a lot of truth. It's actually very accurate, but it does seem that at this point she has lost it, and she even starts speaking High Valyrian to them. She says in it that she is the prince that was promised, and yeah, it's just like a whole thing. So before we come back, we go to the one thing that kind of happens just after this, and the final thing that happens in the King's Landing. Yeah, if you want to just make any comments about just this whole breakdown, because this is the point where she really seems like, you can see her High Council kind of like side-eyeing each other as she is going on this whole prophecy thing. And yeah, like this feels like the moment where she basically loses it. So before we go to the final thing that happens there, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Did you read the scene as like, oh yeah, she's losing it now?
Definitely read the scene like that, and I don't know if you had a similar connection or not, but her costume design and the way she was acting started to remind me a lot like Cersei. And I know that there's like ceremonial heritage like attire that you wear, so maybe it's like, oh no, queens just dress like that. But there seemed to be a lot of similarities between her costume design and Cersei's. And the other irony, I think multiple people have brought this up online too, is the irony of her speaking in High Valyrian to a crowd of like commoners that probably can't even understand the language she's speaking.
They can definitely not.
That's like another, yeah. So that's a crazy move. I didn't fully follow, so I think giving your background helped there. But like, I'm pretty sure she said in High Valyrian that she was the prince that was promised, and that seems significant because technically she's a queen, right? So it gets kind of confusing there. If
there is a very cool thing about this.
Yeah.
So again, Martin being Martin, I could be wrong, but I'm extremely sure I'm not. I like the dramatic zoom out of the camera, cool, and the zoom in. Basically, I think, so there are a couple of prophecies in the main series, in the Song of Ice and Fire, like the Game of Thrones series of books. There's a couple, I think there's like at least two prophecies where it's not completely clear what it's saying. And actually, basically, I think the gist of it is that the word in High Valyrian, in which the prophecy was made, it's genderless, or it's like neutral gender, which is why it's one of the plot points and one of the cornerstones of many theories is it Daenerys or is it Jon Snow or is it some third person that's actually the main person that's supposed to stop the darkness, like the White Walkers? Because it's like this actual word in the prophecy is genderless, so it can be male and female. So this is what's going on. I'm pretty sure this is So it's interesting that they wrote The Prince That Was Promised. I guess that's maybe a nod to us who have seen the main series, and I guess it's kind of Jon, even though they messed up the whole ending there, so it's a whole other thing, and Jon didn't. It's Arya who, it's a. Let's not go into that. But I think that's the nod here that's going on.
Okay, no, that's great. That makes sense.
But yeah, anyway, I guess you were saying, or are you done with I don't know.
No, that was good. That was good. I like the background that because I was kind of like, whoa, she's already queen. Why is she telling everyone she's a prince now? But okay, that makes sense. I did like kind of how religion plays a part in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, because similarly with Cersei, right? We had the shame walk when the last time they were dealing with religion and ruling. So in this case, it was a more direct path. So Rhaenyra didn't have to deal with any of that because she just took him out right away. So very effective in that front.
I guess we'll see. Though still less effective than what Cersei did, because Cersei just blew up the whole thing.
That's fair.
But yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, we kind of leave her in the middle of the speech, and she goes back to the Red Keeper later in the episode. We skipped it, but we'll just skip this because to wrap up the storyline. And I forgot what the lady's name is. The actress is very good, actually. Her main servant girl comes over and basically will learn that Helena has taken her own life, and we just see her that she's gone, and she, we have been seeing her mental state keep deteriorating while she was imprisoned, and even at the beginning of this episode, she is force fed because she has been refusing to eat, and Rhaenyra force feeds her, or her soldiers do. And this is just another punch against Rhaenyra's own mental state and her position where she is and what she thinks of herself and so on. And obviously it's extremely tragic because Helena seems to be, she legit might be the purest soul we have seen in all 3 shows so far. Like she is in contention for like number 1 purest soul person in this whole thing. Because she saw all these different futures in the previous episode, right? And just the fact that she chooses this to just get out of this terrible world, that terrible world. It's just the tragedy of it all. And Rhaenyra finds her unfinished tapestry, which depicts seemingly it depicts different events and depicts her own falling out of the window. And as the camera moves to the left, we also see a queen that obviously seems like Rhaenyra standing in front of the Iron Throne. There's fire around, there's blood on her. It's not looking good. There's dragons screaming in the background, it's not looking good. So obviously it seems like the future of Queen Rhaenyra is not going to be the brightest. And that's kind of where this whole thing ends. So comments on this last part of the storyline in the season?
I wish I knew more about the mechanics of a dreamer, because I feel like, didn't Helena see some futures that looked happy? Like it seemed like there's some where she was with her kids or something, if I remember correct.
Yeah, she was with her kids, and I think they were chicken around because I guess at some point she said she wanted to actually just raise chicken and be left in peace. But actually, that is the scene. There's like a unicorn or a horse in the background as well. It's all seems nice and well, and then that's actually the point where the snow suddenly starts falling. The sun gets eclipsed. Fun fact: actually, there's an eclipse happening the day after this airs, so something to think about. Check I think especially if you're in Europe and so on, there's a big eclipse happening at the same time where there's Perseids, the meteor shower that's every year. So just check that out tomorrow. I guess it's very poignant timing. Anyway, She sees this whole thing, and basically she sees the long winter coming in this vision. So even the nice thing that she sees is actually like has like an expiration date because the long winter is coming. Though I guess in her case,
Wow.
actually, it is still a couple of generations away. So no, that was no good things there. It was all bad stuff.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't see her character arc ending that way. I was hoping for something a little bit more pleasant, but I guess that's one way to do it. It's definitely one way to do it. And the tapestry is pretty interesting because then that's alluding to her dreaming Rhaenyra getting what she wants, but sounds like at the cost of a lot of destruction and damage. So I'm curious. I'm sure people are probably looking over that tapestry and finding hints and clues of what's to come, or just read the books and already know. But yeah, it good way
Or
to
got
end
spoiled.
that. Or got spoiled. Yeah.
Or paid extra attention during the Game of Thrones TV show because Joffrey told us what happened to Rhaenyra.
Yep, I think that made its round. It spoiled me, unfortunately, but the positives of having bad memory is sometimes you forget, and
Yeah, exactly.
I roughly forgot what happened. I have a general idea, but it's still going to be surprising for
Just
me.
don't think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is. I guess that's kind of it for this plot, and that's she closes the window, and that's where she ends. And just to go like on an extra points of metaphors, I wonder if her closing this window is the symbol of her completely closing herself off to the wider world and to the people outside, and just further closing herself in
That's a good connection.
from everybody else, and just like in her own little world, and just like basically everything else outside is the enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we'll see.
If I can transition now to Tumbleton,
please.
I wanted to bring up, I think we had a couple theories on the previous episode too that I don't think any of us guessed what Ulf ended up doing. I think I wish I remember my exact theory, but I figured he was going to stick to one side. I had no idea he was going to stick to both. That was a crazy twist to attack both armies, and rightfully so. I'm sure we'll get into the points of why he did that in a second. But the other one I wanted to mention too was Hugh. I think we had some theories that were pretty close to what happened. Like we assumed he would go there.
Actually, I was going to say, I think you were because obviously it's hard to be specific with these things. I think actually you nailed it, because I think at some point you said, I think in the last episode, the previous episode, I think you said, "Oh, I wonder if he will kind of hold back or something like this to not to reduce the chances of his wife getting hurt," which is exactly what he did. He left his dragon outside. So I think you were bang on that.
Look at that. Throw out crazy theories, and every once in a while they stick. But yeah, so I thought that was cool. It makes sense for his character arc too, because he has family in there, so he wouldn't want to destroy them. But Ulf seemed to have nothing to lose, so he just went crazy. Yeah, it was very entertaining. And the last thing I'll just say on that was there was some awesome cinematography shots at certain points that I love. There's a lot of like POV shots where you saw some from the dragons, some from the melee, like attacking, going up the ladder. Even coming through the gates, there was a shot that looked awesome. So yeah, kudos to the cinematography this episode. A lot of great shots.
Yeah, there were a lot of great shots. I'll just go. I want to say go back to Ulf, but I guess we'll kind of naturally go back to him. Basically, this was like the big battle that we were building up to the whole season, and Daemon is there. The armies of the Rivermen are there. The old wolves, or what are they called, are there. Yeah, it's the armies there. They're about to start fighting. Ormond kind of bet a lot on having that ace up his sleeve, which was supposed to be Ulf with his dragon. But yeah, Ulf got drunk, like blackout drunk, and we find him like as he fell asleep in the privy, and obviously Ormond loses it, is very, very unamused, and attacks him and assaults him and so on. And this is the moment where I saw that comment somewhere, like this is the perfect proof of why you should not let the drunkard sit and drive a car, or in this case, drive a dragon. And especially, you should not actually like attack and humiliate him. But it's the rich people, right? It's just the people in this world, what they do. Damon and Ormond and so on. Obviously, we have seen the same thing. So he's like, all right, cool, and then he just later on when he does go out, just attacks obviously both sides, and is very laconic about it. He is very like, there's only one sentence that he says when he turns on Ormond as well, and it was a very simple and yet effective one. And as for the rest of the battle, well, before the battle starts, we had Gwaine Hightower, who is low-key, not even low-key, he is one of my favorite characters. I love the portrayal. He sees Ormond as unstable, and he tries to, with Darren's blessing, kind of, to try to negotiate a peace, and to release Corlys, or like use him as a bargaining chip. Anyway, Daemon rejects the offer, keeps Corlys as prisoner, which is a bit of an odd thing, but I guess he was angry at Corlys to even consider splitting the kingdom and so on and so on. Again, Daemon being Daemon and thinking himself being above an average human, being a god basically himself, or at least what he says to himself. Yeah, he's angry at Corlys, and anyway, the attack starts. There's a big battle. They put children on the walls. Terrible stuff. Terrible stuff. We see the plan. They attack the city from, like, there's another entrance. They go there. Daemon leaves the Caraxes outside. He goes in on foot. It's a whole thing. A lot of things happen. He fights the guy from Andor, whose name there was, I think, Braca. I always forget what his name is here. They have a duel. It ends inconclusively. The leader of the wolves of the Stark army is looking for Ormond, and he does eventually fight him. And there's a whole thing going on there. It's definitely something. It's that duel of theirs. Ormond's disgust towards things comes to play once again, and then they both get burned by the dragon. And yeah, it's just a lot of bad things. We do see Hugh Hammer, who does show up and leaves his dragon outside, and he tries to find his wife, and his wife is actually, she lost her life. So that's obviously an unfortunate thing. It's just a lot of things are happening, and I do want to say, like, did you see there was one shot where there were 3 dragons above the army at some point, and I wasn't sure what was going on there, but then I actually watched the video. I had a bit of time to watch the video, and I saw it actually turns out it was the Hugh Hammer's dragon was chasing Caraxes, Daemon's dragon, because Daemon's dragon was chasing Ulf on his dragon, because Hugh's dragon and Ulf's dragon are mates apparently. So he was trying to protect him, which meant that Caraxes was kind of like chasing one dragon while being chased by a different dragon. So chaos ensues. I don't know if anybody wins. Terrible stuff all the way. And yeah, Ormond is dead. Tumbleton destroyed, kind of. Not sure how to fully describe that, but yeah, anyway. Terrible stuff all the way. Yeah, so do you have any comments overall about the battle and any other things that kind of like caught your eye? And actually, sorry, there's one thing I need to just mention before I forget. So Gwaine Hightower.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, Gwaine Hightower has lived, I guess. And I just want to say that this guy, Freddie Fox is the name, and he reminds me terribly a lot of Toby Stevens, who played Captain Flint in Black Sails, one of my favorite, all-time favorite TV shows. Brilliant show, and the guy who plays Gwaine looks extremely like just a younger version of this character. So I just needed to share this fun fact because it's fun. It's fun to me, at least. So here we are. Anyway, that's all I want to say. I would like to have a pictures of the two of them just so people can see and compare. Thank you very much. Please, your views of this insane fact and also the battle in general.
Well, I gotta say, we're 40 minutes into the conversation and only had 2 tangents to other IP outside of Game of Thrones, so we're doing pretty good. Yeah, I definitely see the resemblance. I'll definitely throw up some photos there. And I did like the political intrigue of Gwaine going against Ormond's back and trying to usher a deal with Corlys. And I found it interesting. Corlys was a prisoner in one camp, tried to reason with Daemon, ended up being a prisoner in Daemon's camp. It's like you can't win.
Yeah, can't reason with Daemon.
Can't reason with Daemon. But yeah, the battle was great and the action was great. And you kind of, I think you were alluding to it in your ramp up to the questions, but I feel like this season finale may have left too many cliffhangers, if that's a way to word it, where like I feel like there's a healthy amount of wanting more, and I feel like I want more than that. So I feel like it's a little bit more, it left more to be desired, unfortunately. But that's like a good problem to have, because now I'm going to be excited for the next season. But yeah, how did you feel overall for this for this episode and for the season?
So it's weird because Helm's Deep, I feel like that's still the kind of the golden standard of big on-screen live action sieges and battles and so on. I feel like I feel that I've definitely seen better siege battles on screen, even putting Helm's Deep aside. Also, Helm's Deep has the benefit of like the story is just slightly less complex. Like there's a sieging army attacking the besieged army. There's no political intrigue. The stakes are extremely like divided. Like these guys need to survive. These guys need to completely destroy these guys, and that's kind of it. This whole thing obviously has way more. It's way more complex. With Ulf, with Hugh Hammer, with Gwaine, with all these subplots going on. Like it's obviously so it's more challenging to portray this battle as such. Which is, but I did feel so. The reason why I'm saying this is because I felt like there was really good stuff. It all looks good, but I do feel like there were kind of like some logical inconsistencies of how things are happening, where characters are. I felt like some scenes, some small middle shots or like middle scenes, middle cuts could have been improved in some ways. I don't want to go into depth because we could dissect it, but still, I think I do overall. And then I was thinking like, but still, like overall, this is some of the highest production we have seen of battles in these kind of like, I guess, technology level societies. So still, a solidly done given all the stuff that's happening. Because there's like 5 things going on in Tumbleton at the same time. Still, I think solidly done episode. I do feel that this season in general is showing more and more. You could always say there's an element of the fact that the showrunner and like the people behind this have decided to take a lot of creative liberties, and as Robert mentioned in the previous episode we did, he quoted Martin, who talked about chaotic butterflies or toxic butterflies, like referring to the butterfly effect of like things they changed in season 1, season 2. It keeps exponentially growing into a bigger issue later on. So maybe there's something to this, maybe there's something to the screen limit time. I don't know, but either way, this feels like this is the moment where, or this season kind of made me feel like it's hard to find things to enjoy in this show, if that makes sense. Because in the main series, like in Game of Thrones, you had characters who had all these insane arcs and so on, and obviously the story is not finished. But still, even as you go, like in each chapter of, like let's say in each book and so on, in each arc, you always have characters kind of go somewhere, get a reward maybe for their behavior, or get penalized for that or whatever. But that was like, I feel like there was always some kind of fulfillment. So I wonder, and this was the big thing that I was thinking about, I think like 2/3 into the episode, will this show be able to give us some kind of catharsis, like something at the very end that makes it like, yes, I learned something, I see a message, there's some kind of catharsis that I was given through watching this. And I say catharsis intentionally because this is a term that was used in like old Greek, ancient Greek theater and so on. Like this is the thing, like you're watching a play, you're watching a tragedy, for example, like you were watching Greek tragedy 2,300 years ago, and the point is that by the end, even though it's a tragedy, there's a sense of catharsis where it gives you something that uplifts your and that enriches your being. That was the whole point of these things. It was literally called like getting catharsis. That's why I'm using this word specifically. So I wonder if we'll get to a point where maybe, you know, when let's say Aegon wins, he had this whole character arc, and then will we at the end of this show get to a point where I got something out of this? Because this is, you know, we joked about this all the time, but like this is a show like 95% of people will die. You got it's just a safe bet. Like I don't know who, how, when, whatever, but like so many people will die. So I'm just wondering, will all of this be worth it? Because being here for the spectacle of watching dragons fight, it's cool, but it's also just like stressful. Like, you know, you just get a lot of stress for this because in the main series you still get like some kind of cool things happen, like good guys. Like these are all terrible people, you know. Like it's hard to root for anybody in this story. Like, oh yeah, I actually really like this character. There you had Arya, you had Sansa, you had Jon freaking Snow, you had Daenerys, you had Tyrion. Some of them still not perfect human beings, but still like, oh yeah, this is a good person in a terrible world, but they're still kind of like a good person. But yeah, it's like, you know, 3 seasons now, we are really deep into this, and I guess the whole thing is like maybe similar to Dune, where it's like just tragedy of war and tragedy of following these figures that think they're better than everybody else, that leads us into terrible stuff and people dying and losing their lives and lands getting destroyed. And I'm kind of going on a bit of a monologue here, but this is just kind of like the whole thing that I was thinking, like in this episode, like where is this story going? Like, are we going to get some kind of, because it will end it, there you go, will we get some kind of reward, like narrative rewards at the end of this show? So that was kind of like what I was going with this. And there we go. So rant over, I guess, or soliloquy over.
Yeah, you're definitely onto something there. Like I was just while you were speaking, I was like, oh man, like one character I really liked in Game of Thrones was Jaime Lannister, and he did some good things, he did some bad things, but at the end of the day, it's like you fully understood him as a character, his motives and all that. And I feel like we're kind of swimming in a lot of, it's like murkiness, but not. It's like everyone's just a bad person, and they all just want the throne, right? Like that at the end of the day. So yeah, I agree. There might be like no moral at the end of this. Like everyone's pretty much a bad character. There's like no one really to root for. You can root for the lesser of all the evils, I guess, but they're all pretty evil. Maybe the prince under Ormond has like the best shot potentially of being a normal-ish person, but other than that,
Yeah,
everyone's pretty terrible. And yeah, I have like I don't know where to fit this question, but I thought of it while you're speaking too. It came up while we were recording the film club where we talk about 2 movies and have questions about similarities and differences between the two. And one of the questions, because we were dealing with the movie The Thing and 28 Days Later, which has to deal with 2 disasters that occur. The question was, which movie would you rather have to live through? So my question is, which era of Westeros currently would you rather want to live through? Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon?
I mean, it does depend
no good
where.
Answers.
It does depend where, also, because I feel like Dorne has been having it not too bad within the TV shows. In the books, things are probably a bit different, and there were definitely wars in Dorne, and there's a whole thing there. But which one? Do you have an answer? Because I need a second maybe to think about it. Because I really do think it also the geography matters. Like if it's maybe somewhere in there's a place called Old Town. That's actually where the High Towers are from. That's also the seat of the Maesters. I think that place didn't get too much trouble. Definitely not King's Landing at any point anywhere. I think also actually the Eyrie, which is that like closed off. There's like a Paths of the Dead gorge going through where Rhaena was with Sheepstealer, that kingdom that has the moon doors, like, you know, the whole thing. So they don't have it too bad. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe this era. It's really hard to say because the geography really matters. It's like where. Anyway,
Well,
do you have any thoughts?
you know what? I think I'm going to go with Game of Thrones only because there's less dragons, right? So less things to worry about in the world. And then you go, oh, the White Walkers and all that. If you're living far south, the White Walkers aren't even a problem, right? Like you could have gone, if you lived down there, you could have gone the whole centuries of the worry and stuff without worry because Jon Snow and all them took care of everything north of the wall.
Yeah,
So
100%.
could live out there. And, yeah, maybe that. Okay, so Game of Thrones era, but down south somewhere. I don't know if that where is that like Essos or
no. Essos is different. This is Dorne basically. Dorne is this southern kingdom, let's say.
Okay, and because it's
Essos
been
is
a
a
while.
continent towards the east.
Wasn't there? Man, it's been so long since I watched it. The place where is it Sam Tully goes? Is that his name?
That's Old Town.
Old Town.
When
where
he's the
basically
maester.
he went to where the like giant library of all
that's
information and all that.
That's that place with the maces that I mentioned. So that's kind of safe, I guess.
Okay, yeah. So I'd hang out there. I'd hang out there too. Those two options.
Okay, so we're.
How about you?
I mean,
same.
Yeah, same. That's pretty much it. As I said, also like the Erie might be good because it's so remote.
Yeah.
Or like it's hard to get there. So the only thing that can get there are dragons. That's why it fell. But until then, it was kind of like impenetrable because people didn't have dragons. But once you have a dragon, you just go over the gorge, and that gorge is like the perfect choke point, the ultimate choke point. So you can never conquer it. But with dragons, it doesn't matter because they just fly over and get to you, like Daemon did a few times. But yeah, I think maybe Game of Thrones and then that general area. Yeah. But anyway, do you have any, I guess, final thoughts on this season?
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts are there were some great episodes, there were some weak episodes, so I don't know. I'd have to do a full rewatch of season 1, 2, and 3 to see where this one stands. I want to say this still might be one of the strongest seasons. So, yeah, I'd have to go back and watch, but the intro, the first 2 episodes were great. This episode was great. There's some good scenes sprinkled out for the rest of the episodes. So, yeah, I guess mix. Yeah, I guess I don't know right now. Currently, do the outstanding episodes outweigh the lackluster episodes? But yeah, I'm still. I guess at the end of the day, I'm gonna watch season 4. So
yeah,
it did its job. It did its job. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess similar. I think, and this is not purely the quality. It's more the stuff I talked about earlier, where I'm just not sure I'm getting anything deeper than the spectacle and like the generally well done things. I would rank, if I was ranking all the seasons we got of Westeros, so that's 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, 1 of A Night of Seven Kingdoms, that's 9, and these 3, that's 12. The worst one would be, well, I guess season 8 is kind of pretty bad. Season 7 also is not as good. Season 2 of House of the Dragon. So these 3 would be like the back 3. And then this season would be like the next one above them. Not in terms of the sheer quality, but also kind of in terms of sheer quality, but also just like the fun, the fun factor. Basically, it's just not, even though there's obviously cool stuff, capable stuff, amazing acting, scenography, costumes, it looks cool, sound design, like it's great. There's so many crazy things, but yeah, just the fun factor, I guess. And then you can put like Game of Thrones and season 1 of House of Dragon, which was actually excellent. It really was really, really, really excellent, I think. That was definitely one of the strongest seasons overall of all the shows. And then you have obviously Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which is terrific. But yeah, like these 2 seasons, 2 and 3, would be in like the bottom 5 for sure. But it's more like not that this one especially is that bad on its own. It's just like the fun factor, I guess. So it's just a weird mixed feeling. I don't know, but either way, not to end on a downer, we will, it's still interesting to watch this, and it's still fun. And
Yeah.
if anyone is watching this who hasn't seen the previous episode we did, go watch it, because we had Robert from Indie Geek with us, and it was an absolute joy to have someone like that talk about this show, because he just knows all the lore and gives so much depth to all of this. So yeah, I would recommend that. And we'll be back for season 4, and that will be the final season. Then we will be back for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms season 2, which I don't know. I hope somehow it comes out next year. We'll see, I guess.
It's moving quickly.
Yeah. Anyway, you got any final comments? Do you want to maybe want to tell us about the film club real quick, and then I have something else, and then we kind of can wrap it up.
Sure. Yeah. So we launched about a month ago the Fellowship Film Club, where we cover 2 movies. So it's a double feature basically, and the hope is to create an online community of other film lovers. So first episode we covered Her and the Royal Tenenbaums, which were really great films, and they're part of our top 10 movie list. And the episode coming out the end of August is going to cover The Thing from John Carpenter from the 80s, and 28 Days Later, which was 2003, one of Cillian Murphy's first starring roles. And yeah, it was a lot of fun going back and looking at those movies and figuring out similarities and differences between them, and just overall discussion. So yeah, if you're looking to broaden your film horizon, talk about some movies that have been released from any decade really that are influential, we'll be covering them. So look forward to more episodes. So if you're interested, and if you have any discussion points you want to add, you can email us at fellowshipfilmclub@gmail.com, and we'll cover them on air. Yeah, thanks for the plug.
Hell yeah. And yeah, besides that, yeah, we'll just be doing a lot about just continue to do the nerd stuff going on. And speaking of nerd stuff, not completely sure if we're going to do it every week, but there's the show Lanterns that just comes out the next week after this, taking over basically this prime slot. So it should be a pretty big DC show. It sounds very good. It sounds fun. We heard really good things about it. Our friend Walking from Green Lantern podcast will be obviously covering it in depth, so go check that out. And yeah, also there will be some episodes of Star Trek. We talked already also about Spider-Man. There's a lot of cool things, and there's still plenty of things to come in the next months, and it's going to be a very strong end of the year. And also, I checked, apparently A Night of the Seven Kingdoms season 2 should come in the first half of 2027, so that's good. We'll get to do that, I guess, relatively soon, in like half a year or so. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, the good turnaround. But yeah, I think with that, yeah.
And Dune Prophecy season 2 will be around that time, for my understanding. So we'll have a lot to cover.
I think so.
2027.
Oh yes, and also later this week there's going to be D23, where we'll probably get some pretty big Marvel announcements. So I think we'll be doing some news coverage on that front as well. So yeah, check that out, or be on the lookout for it. So do the subscribe and the whole thing. It helps a lot. It feels good. Yeah. Anyway, I think with this, thanks to everybody or anybody who has seen all these episodes or who has reached this point of this particular video, even if you haven't seen any other episodes, whatever. It's fun. We do this because it's fun. It definitely made my enjoyment of this show better that we do these discussions, which I think is pretty cool. Yeah. It just improves the experience. So hell yeah, hopefully did that for somebody else as well. But yeah, we'll be back pretty soon in a couple days already with some other new videos. So yeah, stick around, check it out. And if you are interested in some nerdy conversations, you can also check out our Discord. And yeah, have a good one, and until we see you next time. Bye bye.